helping women entrepreneurs achieve success with less stress. You don't need to be overwhelmed. You don't need to be overworked. You can choose to strategically create a business that works for you rather than you become the slave of that business. And if you can reframe those mindsets around how you make money, around how you approach business, and around how you make your business work for you, everything is possible with a lot less work and a lot more income. So that's the nutshell. Was that even a nutshell? I don't know. That really isn't. That's as fast as I could possibly share that story.
Hi, Gigi. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm super excited to be here with you. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful audience with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. I would love to get to know more about you, talk about your journey and how you got to what you're doing today.
Girl, this would be like a 7-hour show just on the intro. So let me try and give you the more condensed version. So, I was born in Cuba and I came when I was 10 years old. In Cuba, I learned to dance flamenco, right? And I worked in television in Cuba. I was one of the few that were selected from our, different dance studios to perform on the kids shows. And when I came here, there's a really popular television show that was called Sábado Gigante. I think it's something like the second longest running TV show in forever. And they had a dance competition. I won first place, won $1,000. It was like the coolest thing ever. And then they brought me in on scholarship to continue my training with them because they found that, like the dance and everything I did was like, it was great. And my mom was like, I can't pay for this. Like, we just got here from Cuba. We're broke. We came here to earn a little money. Like, we wanted her to win $1,000 and that was great. And so fast forward, after I joined them in scholarships, I learned so much with them, with Univision and the companies that did all the training, everything from speaking in front of a camera to doing commercials to other styles of dance. So I expanded from just flamenco to hip hop and jazz, modern, different styles. And so fast forward, I turned 15 and I've been doing a lot of things on TV already, commercials, including the Santa's Enchanted Forest commercial, which is literally the anthem of the holidays here in South Florida. They're actually celebrating a huge anniversary coming up in December. And my mom comes into my room one day and she's like, you know what? I finished my degree in the University of Miami in the Cubic Center in journalism. You're the only one that knows how to use a computer. So you're going to be the graphic designer of a brand new newspaper. And I'm like, what? I don't want to design anything. Mom, this is nonsense. I have my own things I'm doing. I was like in a singing, dancing group called Fresh. We had performed on the Disney Channel for Christina Aguilera. And like, I was in my own world. And she was like, we're a family. We support each other. So you don't have a choice. And I was like, I hate this. I hate you. Teenager, typical teenager. I hate you. I'm going to move out when I'm 18. This is abuse. So she brings in this old gentleman. His name is Argote. He's passed away now. And he came in with like Adobe PageMaker, which is such an old program. It's discontinued, doesn't exist anymore, right? Only dinosaurs like me know this program. And he taught me how to do the graphic design in like 3 hours. Because my mom told him, she's like, my budget is you can only teach her for 3 hours. Like, that's what I can afford to pay you. So she's got to learn it all in 3 hours. And I learned everything he taught me. When I had that first edition of the newspaper that I designed in my hand, it was like, it felt like drugs. Like, I've never done drugs, but like drugs must feel like that for people to go back, because I went back over and over again. And then fast forward, fell in love with print, fell in love with journalism. I was already kind of, doing all the things on TV. And then I started writing for the newspaper. I became a columnist, sharing my experience applying for college and applying for the FAFSA and all the things. I was writing in Spanish for the parents and in English for the students, the kids my age. And then I started expanding. And when I turned 18, graduated from high school, and it was like, okay, now it's time to go to college. And my mom was like, well, yeah, college is a non-negotiable. And I was like, but Mom, I have a full ride, but we still ain't got money, right? Like, I have to pay for my car. I have to eat, books, all this stuff. And so I opened a dance studio because at the time I was like, this is the only thing I know how to do. And I'd been dancing all that time. I'd continued my training. I'd gone, workshops with choreographers from New York, all the things for the singing, dancing group called Fresh. And I opened the dance studio, Gigi's Dance Academy. This was in 2003. September of this year, we celebrated 20 years of Gigi's Dance Academy, which is my first business. And then somewhere in between there, I was going to go full time into my journalism career, which is what I had always had in my vision as my career, right? Entrepreneurship was just kind of something I stumbled upon at 18 years old when I got out of high school. And if you think about it, and the entrepreneurship was always my first baby. And then the career came long thereafter.
Mm.
And when I got full time into media, I was going to sell the business. My mom was like, no, this is your first baby. Like, we'll take care of it. We'll manage it. It's plan B, just in case anything ever goes wrong, la, 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 la. So the studio's still there. And then I, continued in television. And one day I went so in television, I did like broadcasts I was on NBC, Telemundo, all sorts of things, America TV, mostly Spanish language television, which I love. And then one day I went to a baseball game, to a Marlins game in the old stadium. There was a stage there. And I was like, "Ooh, stage, you know how it is. Like you, when you're in production or when you're in any field and you see like any one element of the thing you love, you're like, what's that? Who's doing that? Who's in charge here? What are you guys doing? What's going on? Like, is it, like you just got to know." So I was like, "What are you guys doing? Who's this? What is it?" And they're like, "Oh, we're Radio Disney and we have entertainment here on Family Sundays." And I was like, "What kind of entertainment?" And they're like, "Raffles, giveaways, games." I was like, "Y'all got performers?" They were like, "No." And I'm like, "Guess what? I own a dance studio full of kids. I'm going to bring my kids here. I would love to talk to whoever's in charge, blah, blah, blah. The only caveat is I have to MC my show. It has to be me." So they approved it because, my music was kid safe, whatever, kid friendly, rather. My choreographies were amazing. My dancers were, super impressive. So I would get on that stage and I was like, "The most incredible belly dance choreographies up next. They're 5 years old. They're going to be performing with veils." And it was like the cutest thing. So the programming director goes to like peep out what I'm doing. And he comes up to me one day and he's like, "Do you want a job with Radio Disney?" And I'm like, "Absolutely the heck not." I'm like, "I'm already busy. Like I'm doing like television full time. I got this dance studio going on. I have all this stuff. I'm good. I'll pass." And he's like, "Just come to the studios one day." Turns out the Radio Disney Miami studios were like a 3.5 minute drive from Gigi's Dance Academy. It was like right there. I had no idea. Wow. We're like tucked away in this little building. And I walked in. The team was incredible. The studio was beautiful. And he was like, "Why don't you become part of our road crew and you be part of the team?" I said yes, because I couldn't help myself. It was just so much fun. And at that point, I was very much a yes person. I would say yes to every opportunity. And this was actually a great opportunity. I ended up on air with Radio Disney within like a month or two of being with the company. I would do the Kids Concern show in Spanish and in English. I'd like interview incredible people for the show. It was phenomenal. And then fast forward, I kind of just found radio, and then I moved or rather radio found me at the Marlins Stadium. And I moved from Radio Disney to Spanish Broadcasting Systems to iHeartRadio, where eventually after, through my 6.5 years there, I was on air across the country in multiple different stations and cities, both in Spanish and in English. And it was phenomenal. And then somewhere in between that, because I would say yes to a lot of other like these are the main big, beautiful opportunities, but there were a lot of other things in the middle that I said yes to. And I ended up working in radio in the morning because that was like the greatest thing. Like the greatest slot in radio is the morning show. That's the big moneymaker. That's the big highlight. Like that's the blah, blah, blah. So when I started radio, I was like, I want the big thing. I want to get to the top. So I did. And then I was doing morning radio, which means you wake up like at the buck crack of dawn. It's like 4 a.m., 4:15. It ain't cute. And then fast forward, I was doing, sports reporting for television. And so I was covering harness races and even, had traveled the country covering these harness races. It was amazing, but I would finish like at 11 p.m. And I was like, okay, wake up at 4, go to sleep at 11 p.m. You know what I think is a great idea? I'm going to go back to school for my master's. And so not a good idea. I ended up burning out. I lost my vision while I was driving. I was losing my hair. I had terrible breakouts on my back. I like skipped my period for like 3 months. When I tell you, my body was like on the fritz, it was done. And then when I lost my vision that time driving, I was like, oh my God, something's, utterly wrong. You go on Dr. Google and you're dying. You have like lupus, brain cancer, a tumor, like all these like diagnosed. I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. So all I had, thankfully, was like severe burnout. And the doctors were like, you need to stop. You need to eat real food. You need to sleep normal hours, and you need to like stop with this like overwhelm and all this stress. And that's when I realized, like, what am I even doing any of this for? And that was the birth of Seizing Happy. When I realized that I was pursuing everybody else's definition of success. And in that process, I drove myself to severe burnout. And on paper, everything I was doing was phenomenal. And it was, but I still was never fulfilled because I wasn't pursuing my purpose and my mission, I was pursuing society's definition of success. If you're in TV, it's either the news or it's sports, because that's where like the highlights and the money are. If you're in radio, it's morning radio. If you're in entrepreneurship, it's forever. Like, it's just all the things, you know. And like, if you're an academic, then you got to go all the way through academia. You got to get your bachelor's, your master's, double master's, PhD, like all this stuff. And I was like, you know, I need to stop. I reframed my entire life, reset, you know, everything that I did and how I did it and what I said yes to, how I said yes to things, say no to most things. And then that was the birth of Seizing Happy, where now I realize, especially after 20 years in entrepreneurship and all the headaches, is you can achieve success with less stress. And that's our motto in Seizing Happy, helping women entrepreneurs achieve success with less stress. You don't need to be overwhelmed. You don't need to be overworked. You can choose to strategically create a business that works for you rather than you become the slave of that business. And if you can reframe those mindsets around how you make money, around how you approach business, and around how you make your business work for you, everything is possible with a lot less work and a lot more income. So that's the nutshell. Was that even a nutshell? I don't know. That really isn't as fast as I could possibly share that story.
Yeah. So some nuggets that I've jotted down. One, you were talking about early on in your career, you're saying yes to the right opportunities. I think oftentimes people don't always understand that saying yes to the right opportunities is different than saying yes to like everything. So making sure that you, as a business owner, you've got to say yes to the right opportunities. And I love that achieve success with less stress. I mean, as you know, a woman entrepreneur, you know, and I'm a mother, it's like, how do you find that balance where you feel like you always have to go, 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 but you don't have to? There's a way for you to be successful without being that. So I love both of those. Now, you obviously have a tremendous career in media, and there's so many avenues which people can advertise, you know. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that's part of your expertise too. Let's talk about like maybe some ways that business owners can focus on the media, and, you know, maybe what is the best avenue depending on products, you know. I don't know. This is your space. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So where I specifically coach in the space of helping women entrepreneurs make more money through media is by really owning your brand, right? And so the power of this is that you have the option of either pitching a solid brand to big media. So you can get on radio shows like iHeart, you can get on NBC, you can get on all these things. One of the spaces that I coach in is in teaching my clients how to pitch themselves to big media and get earned media, where you're not paying for this space, but rather you know how to get to these producers in the right way with the right messaging that are going to get you the access to the TV shows without the dollar spend. And then there's the other option when you really create a solid brand with solid messaging, is you become the, so to speak, like the public figure, the person who truly can be the spokesperson of your brand in a way that is authentic and comfortable to the person that you are. What's happening these days is that, you know, with YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, like anyone can be in front of a camera, and everyone is in front of a camera to some degree. And as entrepreneurs, you have to really learn how to discern, right? Like what is valuable content and what is worth the time in creating, and what is just extra content that people might want to see, but doesn't necessarily drive dollars. And more importantly, burns you out because you feel you have to constantly be creating, you have to constantly be present on social media. And that's not really the case. If you can create a powerful brand with a clear messaging that knows exactly how to attract your client, you can maximize free media platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you know, TikTok, all these platforms. You would focus specifically at first where your audience is. And with a powerful brand and the right strategy, which is what I coach my clients on, you can easily create 30 days of powerful content in 3 to 4 hours without the overwhelm and without having to be in front of a camera all the time. So what this does is it gives my clients back time. And that's really why we got into entrepreneurship, right? It was, you know, we all want to make money. We all want to have nice things. We all want to get better things for our family and our kids. But ultimately, the biggest entrepreneurial flex there is time freedom. And so when you can maximize the power of your brand to strategically position yourself for free or for very, very little cost on either big networks or attract big audiences to your platform, that is the key win. Because if you do that strategically with the right support, which is what I coach on, you can make more money and have more time. That is the goal.
Yeah. And to imagine like being able to create, like you said, a full month of content in just a few hours a month. I think most people don't understand that. because, you know, they're trying to do everything on their own. They're trying to do many different platforms at the same time. They're missing their audience completely. And so then, like you said, they get burnt out because they're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah, and there's no strategy behind the process. One of the biggest things that I see with new clients as they come in is there's just content for the sake of content, right? Like it's what you had for lunch, and then you talk about your product, and then you talk about your kids, and then you try to incorporate like a story or something that's trending, and then you do the dance, and then it's like, okay, but what's the goal? How many of these posts are actually making you money? How many of these posts are resulting in a new lead? How many people are getting into your DMs and saying, I'm interested in what you do, right? So it's in creating, it's not about the volume of posts. It's about having the right posts that are going to always drive people in to your DMs or to your comments, that then you can start an authentic conversation with them and turn them into clients.
Yeah. And I like, see, that's the thing too. You're having an authentic conversation. It's not, and I know, you know, technology is here, AI is here, and it's difficult. You know, I will say, I told this story earlier, but it was kind of crushing to me when I knew that I was messaging somebody and it wasn't really them. It was either their assistant or it's like a bot talking back to me. And I was like, oh, I'm not really talking to them. So the authentic part, what you just said, really, you know, vibes with me, because then if we're having a real conversation and then I start to know you, I like you, I trust you, now I'm going to hire you. I'm going to do what you tell me to do because I know you're the expert. So having that authentic conversation, that's incredible too.
And don't get me wrong, there is a place for assistance and there is a place for AI in scaling your business and in creating content that is powerful and in bringing in leads and in filtering leads out. There comes a point in business, I think, that when you have, you know, like if you have 100 inbound leads a day, you shouldn't be in your DMs replying to all these people at one time. You should have a team. You should be able to filter them out, you know, like with a chatbot, that's okay. But I think that if you have the right messaging and the right content and you know how to authentically communicate with your clients, even in your videos and your reels and your posts and your captions, your clients are going to really be able to get to know you because you're leading with your heart and you're leading with your truth, even in the content that is pre-recorded and that's a photo or whatever. And then once you have that filter process so that you know that when you're getting on a call or on a DM with a client, it's the right client. It's a client who's ready to close. You shouldn't have, in my opinion, I don't believe in bro sales. Like, I don't believe in hustling clients to close. I don't believe in pushing clients to close. I have like a 2 follow-up maximum. And most of the time, I don't even get to the second follow-up. I believe in clients who already want to invest in what they want to do. And when you come to me, it's because you've either heard me speak somewhere or you've been following me and you know that I walk the talk and I preach what I practice what I preach, and you're ready. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you need to chase any clients, because then what ends up happening is you're trying to convince someone to give you their money. And that's when some people are like, I struggle with sales. Sales feels so slimy. I don't want to push my product. If you're pushing your product, it means that your content isn't powerful enough. It's not made right and it's not strategic enough. If your content is made right and it's strategic and you have the right messaging, if you do what I teach my clients to do, you don't have to push the person to buy. The person's ready to buy off a click.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah. Because then it doesn't feel like you're selling, because they just came to you and said, hey, I want this, sign me up. How do we start? And then it's no longer, it's not a sales conversation. You're putting out your information. You're confident in what you're doing. You know your stuff. And like you said earlier, sometimes you feel like everyone should know this, but when you talk about it and people, you know, question, oh, what is that? Tell me more about that. Then you realize that is like your superpower, right? It's like this is your area of expertise. They're coming to you. They already want to hire you. And yeah, I love that strategy too. And I don't know why most people don't do that, but I think, you know, they just get lost in it. They just don't know where to focus.
It happens a lot because it can be overwhelming, you know, and you have a lot of people out there telling you have to post every day, you have to be present, you have to do this, you have to do that. And it's like, without a strategy, it doesn't matter. And when you're speaking to everyone, no one's listening to what you're saying. And so you really have to hone in on having a powerful brand. Like, if I tell you right now, what's in your wallet, you know what brand that is, right? If I tell you, just do it, you know what brand that is, you know, like I can sit here and tell you like these slogans, and I can tell you 2 colors. If I tell you like red and yellow, there's one specific brand that came to your mind right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so when you can hone in on the messaging, the power of the brand, what it stands for, what it represents, who it caters to, why it caters to them, and you speak their language, you don't have to sell anything. It sells itself because you understand your client that well. And so, it's important that there is a strategy behind the content, but before you even get to the content strategy, you have to have a very powerful visual for your brand, messaging for your brand, essence for your brand. Like, people should identify what your brand is the moment they arrive to you.
Yeah. And a product, if they're going to absorb your content, you don't have something for them to engage with you, then why are you even here?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, if you're just creating content for fun, that's a different party than like, what are you selling? You do have to have something that you're selling.
Yeah. So how about a tip for maybe a new business owner and they're trying to figure out, where do I start? Just maybe something simple, basic that for us may sound simple, basic, but for a brand new business owner and they just don't know what to do, what would you recommend for them to do?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Thank you for that. So I think the most important thing when it comes to a new business owner is you want to find out where is your audience, right? Or else you're just speaking into the void. So is your audience consuming content on Instagram? Are they consuming content on Facebook, or are they consuming content on YouTube? Usually most people don't consume content on all platforms, right? They have like a preferred go-to platform. That's one thing that I would strongly recommend. And then it's really niching down. I know everybody says this and it gets overwhelming and they're like, well, if I niche down too much, then I'm going to miss out on people. You're not. The most important thing is you have to know who you're talking to. One example that I love to use is, because I work with women, one example that I love to use is, like, let's say that your audience is like moms, right? When you're starting off, when you're in the very beginning, you want to hone in on a specific mom, because a first-time mom who is a single mom with no help of one child, a 6-month-old child, has completely different needs, mindsets, and support requirements and time availability and financials than a mom of one who has a husband, a grandma who's around to babysit, or a babysitter, or you know what I'm saying? So like, already, even just a mom of one 6-month-old is completely different in how you would speak to them and the needs that they have and the time requirement. And for the most part, buying power, if she's a single mom who has no help, than if she's a mom who has help. Right? That is a completely different, like, mom world experience, to have support, to have no support. And so that's a really simple, generic example, but it kind of really hones in on who are you speaking to, so that you really understand what their needs are. When somebody feels loved and understood, they immediately gravitate to you. And if you're living in your purpose and you know that the service that you offer can change the life of your client, the most important thing that you can do is truly care about your client and understand them and make them feel loved and understood, so that you're speaking to them directly. And when they come to you, they are ready. They're ready to purchase your product. They're ready to give you the opportunity to be further in your purpose and changing their life.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I agree with you on the niching down, because if you get specific and you're very good at storytelling what you're doing, who your target audience is, then they come to you and buy, and there's going to be plenty of people in that field. So love that too. All right. So as we start to wrap up the podcast a little bit, I have a fun question for you. If you could pick a superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh my Lanta, a superpower. I would like to be able to survive in all different atmospheres. So I would love to be able to go underwater, breathe underwater, like survive underwater, and like see the corals and play with the whales. And I would also like to be able to survive in other atmospheres. Like, I'd love to be able to go out to space and, wander around and not require NASA to take me there, because I don't know, like, I need a suit and oxygen and all the things. I think I'm so curious about, especially about I'm fascinated by the ocean, and also a little terrified by it, but fascinated by the ocean. So I think that would be one.
That's awesome. We haven't had that one yet, so that's really good.
Oh, cool.
Good thing to think about. Yeah. All right, Gigi, if my audience wants to get in touch with you, learn more about what you're doing in your programs, how do they reach you?
Absolutely. So you can find me at Gigi Diaz Live. That's Gigi, D as in David, IAZ as in zebra, LIVE. Or you can follow my company, Seizing Happy, on Instagram, on all the across all platforms. I am Gigi Diaz Live and Seizing Happy.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Are you a business owner looking to increase your profit? Imagine transforming every podcast guest appearance to profit. It's your turn to shine as a podcast guest. I have created a course just for you. It's the secret to profiting from podcasting and being a guest. Go to podcastmoneymagnet.com today and check out this incredible course that's going to teach you how to grow your brand and grow your bank account. Feel the shift as you master being a podcast guest. Podcastmoneymagnet.com today.